No one cares it's your birthday, my sister texted. So I froze the $3,500 monthly account and watched them beg the landlord for mercy. I'm Zephyr, 28, and I've never made a big deal about my birthday. Not since I was a child, at least. Perhaps it's because I learned early on that no one else in my family genuinely cared. They'd forget or simply say, "Happy birthday" in passing, sometimes not even that. But this year was different, not because I had any expectations, but because I had finally resolved to stop pretending their conduct was normal. I had spent the previous few years quietly holding everything together, paying bills, fixing gaps, and maintaining a roof over everyone's heads. I did not complain or ask for anything in return. I just did it because they were family, and you're meant to do that, right? My mom had a difficult few years after my father departed. I understand that. And my younger sister, Celine, who is 23 years old and still acts as if she owes the world everything, has a habit of trying things out and then quitting the next month. She was still living with Mom in the townhouse I had purchased for. Neither of them worked hard. Mom occasionally worked remotely, and Celine took on graphic design commissions. But every month, I pay the bills, buy groceries, and even use streaming services. I have a joint account with them into which I transferred funds so they wouldn't have to ask. It simplified things for them. It made things difficult for me, but I persevered. Until last week. My birthday was on Thursday. I wasn't expecting balloons or anything, but it would have been great to receive a text, a call, or even a goofy GIF in the family group chat. Instead, I awoke to silence. I went through alerts while sipping my coffee and noticed that the group chat was still active, but not for me. Celine had posted a photo of herself in a downtown cafe with the remark, "Self-care day with my fave person, me." A handful of pals reacted. I ignored it. Around midday I checked again, still nothing, not a single happy birthday. I attempted to ignore the fact that I had been receiving work calls all day. Around 4 p.m., Celine said this in the chat. "Stop acting like anyone cares if it's your birthday." And my mother gave it a thumbs up. I stared at it for a full minute, believing they were joking. But there was no setup or inside joke, just that. No "just kidding," and no follow-up. Just radio silence. I didn't respond. I did not get angry. I didn't even feel surprised. Just numb and somehow tranquil. My fingers tapped idly on the ceramic mug in my hand, and I realized something. I had made things far too easy for them. They didn't simply take me for granted. They honestly believed they deserved whatever I offered them. And they clearly did not regard me not as a family member, but even as an individual. I had been regarded like a utility, like an ATM, with no opinions, no boundaries, and certainly no birthday. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and drove directly to the bank. It was silent inside. Yara, the branch manager, knew me because I had helped her son secure an internship the previous year. She always recalled that. I explained my request. Freeze the card, remove my name from the shared account, and flag all future transactions for approval. She nodded, didn't ask too many questions, and simply guided me through it, one calm step at a time. I left the bank an hour later, carrying a folder of papers and a peculiar sense of calm in my chest. Not necessarily relief, but rather clarity. It was as if I had finally quit attempting to win a game I had never agreed to. Back home I didn't text them, warn them, or hint at anything. I ordered sushi, put on a movie I had been intending to see, and laid back on my couch in silence. At 11:42 p.m., Celine sent another message to the group chat. "Elmo, why is the card declining?" Mom said, "Mine too. Is the app down?" Then Celine said, "I just tried at Kroger and it's not working, like at all." Nonetheless, I said nothing. I closed the app and went to bed. The next morning began like any other until it didn't. My phone had 10 missed calls from my mother. Celine left 5 voicemails. The texts piled up like spam. "Mike, what is going on? Did you change something? Call me back. Are we locked out of the account? Why is the landlord here?" I blinked and scrolled slowly. The landlord apparently showed up at their home that morning to inquire about the rent because the autopay had bounced. I'd also canceled that. The same goes for the energy bill, water, and internet. I hadn't told them yet, but I was in the process of moving the lease to my new name. I didn't need them living in my house anymore. I even spoke with an attorney about how to lawfully evict a family member if they refused to go. It was not about vengeance. It was about setting limits, finding serenity, and finally saying enough. But I hadn't written back yet, not that day. Instead, I went to work, answered emails, Made small conversation with co-workers, who did remember my birthday, bless their souls, and left calls from Celine and my mother on voicemail. By the evening, they were texting stuff like, "Are you okay? Please just let us know what's going on." But I wasn't in a hurry to explain for once. They were the ones who remained in the dark. For once, they were scrambling. That weekend I received a text message from my cousin Sarah, the only family member who has ever made an effort to connect with me. She claimed Celine had posted something passive-aggressive on Instagram. Crazy how people change when you rely on them, and Mom had responded with a sad face emoji. Sarah inquired whether everything was fine. I assured her I was fine and that I had finally drawn a line. I didn't expect her to say, "Good, honestly, they've been awful to you for years, you don't deserve that." Maybe it shouldn't have mattered so much, but it did. However, that was not the end of it. Monday morning began with a knock on my flat door. It wasn't the expected delivery. It was from Celine. Hood up, eyes swollen, and arms crossed. "Can we talk?" she inquired. And for a moment, I considered inviting her in. But then I remembered the text, the thumbs up, the groceries I'd paid for, the bills I'd covered, and the years of being treated as if I weren't there until they needed something. So I stepped out and closed the door behind me. She moved uncomfortably. "You froze everything?" I nodded. "Yeah." "Why?" I did not respond right away. I just looked at her and really looked at her and saw the same entitlement, the same arrogance, but shattered at the edges. She huffed. "Look, if this is about that dumb text," and that is where I cut her off. "Don't," I responded quietly and firmly. "Don't call it dumb. Don't pretend it was a joke, you meant it." Celine rolled her eyes, yet there was a hint of uncertainty behind them. "Come on, Mike, it was just a thing, a comment. I say stuff like that all the time." "And that's the problem," I said. "You say stuff like that all the time. You act like nothing matters. Like no one else feels anything. You and Mom both. You've treated me like I'm a ghost in this family unless you need something, money, groceries, rent, whatever. But the second I want something, even just basic decency, you make me feel like a burden." She scoffed. "You're not a burden." "No?" I inquired, my tone increasing. "Then what am I? Because I sure wasn't a brother. Not when you and Mom joked about me in the group chat. Not when you used the card to buy your little self-care days. Or when Mom charged her prescriptions to my account without even asking. Not when I paid your credit card debt last year just so you wouldn't tank your score." Her expression twisted. "I didn't ask you to do that." I laughed bitterly. "That's your go-to, huh? I didn't ask. Like silence is a defense. Like ignoring my birthday was okay because you didn't ask me to care about yours either. It doesn't work like that." She crossed her arms tighter and glanced at the floor. "Okay, so what now? You just cut us off?" I gazed at her and, for the first time, I felt no remorse. "I'm not cutting you off," I said. "I'm giving you back the life you wanted so badly without me in it. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a sponsor." Her eyes widened, but I did not pause. I tried for years to be enough, to be useful, to be helpful, to be wanted. But all I ever got back was sarcasm, silence, and an endless list of obligations. I don't want an apology. I don't want a hug. I want space. "So you're evicting us?" she demanded. "You're seriously just throwing us out?" "Number. The lease was always in my name. I'm just not renewing it with you as a guest. You've got 30 days. I'll even pay for the moving truck if you don't make a scene." She blinked, surprised. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." There was a prolonged pause. Then she attempted another angle. "Mom's not well. You know that. She's stressed. She says things she doesn't mean." I breathed sharply. "You want to talk about stress? Try being the guy who has to listen to his own mother call him emotionally unavailable because he stopped giving out blank checks." "I'm not Mom," Celine mumbled. "No, I agree. You're not. But you're not far off." She winced as though I had hit her. "I'm sorry," she replied finally. And to her credit, I believe she meant it. "I really am. I didn't think it mattered. I didn't think you cared." That hurt more than anything else. Of course I cared. That's why I stuck around this long. I turned the knob behind me. "I'm not asking you to change," I clarified. "I'm just not going to stick around waiting for it anymore." She stood motionless, lips slightly parted, no words coming. I didn't expect her to beg or cry. Celine isn't constructed that way. She was skilled at shrugging things off and pretending the world owed her nothing until it did. She then panicked. As I returned inside, I halted. By the way, I continued without turning around. I also canceled the family phone plan. You might want to look into that. I then closed the door. For the next hour, I stood in the kitchen, leaning against the counter and breathing. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I was finally free. The silence in the room felt different now, less empty and more earned. But the fallout hadn't ended yet. That evening I received a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, but the transcript appeared on my screen. Zephyr, it's Mom. I don't know what's going on, but this is cruel. I've been there for you, always. You don't do this to your family. You don't just walk away. Please call me. We can talk about this. I did not return the call. A few hours later, I received another message, this time via email. It was from my mother's lawyer. I didn't open the email immediately. I looked at the subject line. Urgent. Property ownership dispute. Action requested. And left it in my inbox for a few hours. Perhaps I was allowing myself time to consider. Perhaps I was expecting to feel anger, fear, remorse. But none of those arrived. Just a cold, calm resolution that informed me I was done playing the part they had written for me. Finally, I opened the message. The substance of the email was official, with courteous legalese that hardly disguised the desperation underlying it. The lawyer, Callum Vire, stated that my mother was questioning the legitimacy of recent changes to the property title and that she believed the townhouse should be deemed a family asset rather than an individual property. He requested a meeting with a friendly resolution. I nearly laughed. Friendly. I did not answer promptly. Instead, I dug out the folder that Yara at the bank had helped me organize account statements, the original property deed, the lease agreements, and the ownership transfer to my LLC. Everything was signed, notarized, and time-stamped. I even had an email chain from 2 years ago, when Mom signed the lease paperwork and agreed to be a tenant. She dismissed it at the time, laughing, "Just paperwork stuff for your taxes, right?" I agreed. I never expected to have to use it. Now I'm pleased I did. Still, I did not want this to get unpleasant. Despite everything, a quiet voice said, "Don't burn it down, just walk away." But I was beginning to realize that walking away appeared to them as treachery. To them, love only mattered if it cost me something. 2 days later, I sent a brief email back to the attorney. Dear Mr. Reeves, thank you for reaching out. The property in question is legitimately held by LLC name, and full documentation is available on request. Please take note that the leasing agreement made on date is still in effect. Clause 9. A states that the property owner reserves the right not to renew the lease when it expires. There has been no breach of contract. I respectfully decline the meeting at this time. Sincerely, Zephyr Carter. Within 20 minutes I received a response stating that they will review the documents and advise the customer accordingly. They didn't expect me to push back. Later that night, I noticed another post by Celine, this time on her Instagram story. The screen was dark with white writing. Crazy how family can ice you out like a stranger over one comment. We never stood a chance. I didn't respond. The following morning my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother. She appeared older and smaller than I remembered, and she was wearing a raincoat despite the fact that the skies were clear. When I answered the door, she didn't say anything but looked me up and down, as if she was looking for something in my face, something familiar, perhaps, something gentle. I raised you better than this, she finally stated. Did you? I inquired. She blinked, evidently surprised that I had met her that way. Her tone changed, less accusing, more pained. Zephyr, we were a family. We are a family. Families say things they don't mean. Families fight, but they don't just cut each other off over birthday texts. I leaned against the doorframe. This isn't about one text, Mom. It's about every time I was only good enough when I was useful. It's about years of you pretending like I didn't matter unless I was paying for something. Do you even know where I work? What should I do? What I'm passionate about? She didn't respond. I continued. Celine gets a new phone. I will cover it. You need a dentist appointment. I book it and pay the bill. Emergency car repairs. Did you ever once say thank you? Did either of you ask how I was doing? Her expression clenched. You never asked us for help, Zephyr. You made it seem like you had it all figured out. No, I replied. I made it look easy because you made it impossible to ask. Every time I was honest, you made me feel guilty, or selfish, or like I was trying to start a fight. I've been quiet for years, hoping things would get better. But nothing changed. And I finally realized they won't. She looked away. I know things were hard after Dad left, I told him. But that doesn't justify turning me into your safety net. You didn't raise me to be better. You raised me to be useful. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long time before finally saying, "So that's it? You're done with us?" I paused. "No," I replied. "I'm done letting you treat me like I owe you for existing. You can still be in my life if you respect my boundaries. If you stop using me. If you start treating me like a person and not a paycheck." She began to speak, but I interrupted her. "And if you want to stay in that townhouse, sign a new lease. Pay rent. No games, no guilt trips, just responsibility. Like the rest of us." Her expression changed with amazement, rage, and possibly embarrassment. But she didn't yell or cry. She simply nodded once, firmly, like if she was swallowing something bitter. She then turned to stroll down the corridor. I did not call after her. Later that night, Celine texted me. "So what now? You just want us to pretend everything's fine and pay like strangers?" I glanced at the message, considering how to answer. But before I could type anything, my phone buzzed with another notification. This one was not from Celine or Mom. The townhouse's property manager sent a formal alert that the thermostat had been adjusted to 92 degrees. Another message arrived. The kitchen faucet had been left running. Then came a third. Someone had turned off the security camera on the back door. I rose up, heart pumping and jaw tightening. They weren't going to leave quietly, and I had no idea how far they were prepared to go. I did not sleep that night. The notifications from the property manager app kept coming on, lights flickering on and off at weird hours, someone accidentally setting off the smoke alarm, and the garage door left open for hours. They were attempting to rattle me, or perhaps just send a message. It was petty, passive-aggressive sabotage. But I had expected this. Celine and my mother disliked being told no, especially by me. Especially not when it meant facing penalties. At 2:14 a.m. the security company called me. One of the water sensors in the basement had been activated. I asked them to turn off the water pipe remotely and sent someone to investigate. The technician arrived an hour later and confirmed it. The utility sink had been left running and clogged, causing it to overflow intentionally. I sat there, staring at the ceiling of my flat, watching the fan whirl in slow, pointless circles. This wasn't just revenge, it was a tantrum. A foolish, desperate attempt to push my hand, make me feel guilty, and bring me back into their orbit. Because if they couldn't keep me under control through obligation, they'd attempt anarchy. By the morning, I had a plan. I drove up to the townhouse unannounced. I parked 2 blocks away and traveled the remainder of the distance on foot. The area was calm. The house looked the same from the outside except for a pile of rubbish bags placed by the garage door, as if they'd made a point of dumping everything outside rather than using the bins. Typical. I stepped inside after using my copy to unlock the front door. The heat struck me quickly. They had left the thermostat set to 92 degrees, as indicated by the notice. The air felt like soup. I moved through the house silently. The refrigerator was open and empty. The shelves were plastered with something sticky. A lone container of old milk lay on the top rack, posing a hazard. The TV in the living room was set to full volume and displayed a static screen. No one is home. I headed upstairs. Celine's room was devoid of most personal stuff, with the exception of a few old garments thrown on the floor. Mom's room remained mostly unchanged, the closet half empty, drawers pushed out, and a bedside lamp knocked over. Someone had scribbled in red lipstick on the bathroom mirror. I hope it was worth it. I stood there staring at the sentence, feeling nothing. There is no anger or regret. Just an odd, peaceful detachment, like if I were reading a message written by a stranger in a story I was no longer a part of. I spent the next hour recording everything. I photographed the water damage in the basement, the trash, the refrigerator, the mirror, the thermostat settings, and the deactivated security camera mount. I cataloged everything. I submitted it to my lawyer with a brief message. The damage appears to be deliberate. Proceed with the legal eviction and refund claims. By midday, they had been officially served. The paperwork was delivered to Mom's temporary address, which I had obtained from a previous medical issue she had requested my assistance with, as well as Celine's P.O. box, which she used for freelance work. The documents allowed them 7 days to respond. If they didn't, the case would go straight to court. If they did, they'd have a very difficult time explaining all of the documents and tampering to the judge. That night, I received a text from Celine. "Wow, you really want to humiliate us in court? This is so petty." I did not respond. A few hours later, Mom also sent one. "You didn't have to go this far. You wanted this. You wanted to punish us. Well, I hope you're happy." And you know what? I was. But not for the reasons they expected. I was not thrilled that they were struggling. I was not bragging about the harm. I did not feel victorious. I felt free. The week passed quickly. I delegated the problem to my lawyer and kept out of it. He kept me updated every few days. Celine tried to launch a countersuit, but it was dismissed. Mom sought to claim mental anguish, but the judge requested evidence, which she did not have. The matter was resolved quickly and quietly, most likely because they recognized I wasn't bluffing and didn't want me to drag every screenshot, voicemail, and payment record into court. By the end of the month, they were gone. The townhouse was now officially back in my name. I hired a cleaning crew, changed the locks, and had the space professionally fixed. The water damage wasn't as severe as I had feared, but the cleanup price was still high, just around $5,000. Still, I saw it as a compromise for peace. I never heard from either of them. No apologies, no messages, and no half-hearted attempts to reconcile. Just silence. And I was fine with it. It has been 6 months now. The house is rented to a young couple who truly express gratitude when I fix something. They painted the property themselves, placed plants on the balcony, and paid their rent on time. I check in with them every few weeks, and every time I step through the front door, it feels like a ghost has been exorcised. A common contact informed me that Celine had moved in with some acquaintances. Mom lives with a distant cousin in another state. Apparently, they are both telling others that I lost it and kicked them out due to a misunderstanding, that I was never particularly stable. Fine. Allow them to express what they want. I'm not attempting to change their interpretation of the story. I'm simply finished living in it. Last month, I celebrated my birthday quietly, simply, and peacefully. I took the day off from work, treated myself to a wonderful meal, went along the lake, and shut off my phone. No expectations, no guilt. It's just space. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to recognize me. I recalled myself. That was more than enough.